So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can 3x to 4x your website leads and SaaS signups just by optimizing your contact forms on your website. So there's pretty much a framework that we follow when it comes to contact forms. And I'm going to kind of walk through those principles and also share examples of sites that, don't follow these principles well, and then examples of sites that nail the principles down as well. The first principle of any high converting contact page is a benefit driven headline, right? So again, we're spending all this effort to get people to the contact page. Traditionally, somebody's going to click on a contact button on the website or get a quote or, whatever the core CTA is. Once I'm on the contact page as a user, I already know I'm on the contact page, right? So if you look at this site here, as soon as you get to the contact page, you're presented with contact us. Welcome to the family, right? That's just the headline there. If you look at Local Express, when you click on Get Started, you have Let's Get Started, right? If you look at ACM Services, go to Contact Info, get more information. And the last example here is you have Let's Talk. The issue precisely with all of these sites is that, I already know I'm on the contact page, right? So it's kind of a missed opportunity to really convey what is the actual benefit of me filling out your form or signing up for your software or contacting you, right? Using things like Let's Talk, Contact Us, Get in Touch, Let's Get Started. These are all redundant because I'm already on the contact page as a user. So kind of transitioning into what, high converting sites do. If you look at User Gems, as soon as I get to the book a demo page, you have ready to grow your pipeline, right? A lot more actionable, a lot more benefit driven, and it actually gives me an incentive to fill out the form. The other thing that they do well, and this is, kind of the second principle that goes hand in hand with the headline, is giving the user some sort of indication as to what they can expect if they fill out the form, right? So 3 to 4 bullet points of, USP, selling points, track your customers when they change jobs, identify new buyers. Like these are all additional reasons that I should fill out the form as opposed to just generic information or no information at all. Here's another example, right? Create e-commerce experiences that increase conversions, sales, and repeat customers. Again, very actionable, very benefit oriented, gives me a compelling reason to reach out. And then exact same principle, 3 to 4 bullet points of here's what I can expect if I fill out the form. And these are actual, value props of the company. Chili Piper, exact same thing, qualify, route, and book prospects in seconds, and 3 to 4 bullet points, right? So there's kind of a recurring theme when it comes to these forms, which you'll notice as I go through the other points as well. So that's principle 1. Now, the second principle of any high converting form is putting social proof at the point of form entry. So when you think about the most, critical point of action for conversion, that's typically the contact page, right? It's the last step in the funnel. And so again, we're spending all this effort to get people to the contact page. Naturally, there's going to be some people that'll drop off and, second guess. They might have some fear. They might have some uncertainty. They might not complete that action. And so what we want to do at the point of form entry is introduce social proof. So things like reviews, testimonials, featured publications, even stats, right? There's a lot of different ways you can do this. So again, Chili Piper at the point of form entry, they have a testimonial and they have, some logos of companies they've worked with. The Lion Group, very similar example. You have some, logos of companies they've worked with, some big names, right? And again, the psychology behind this is, it just gets me over the edge to have that social proof, top of mind here. It shows me that this company's credible and it gives me that extra push to actually complete the form and proceed with the action. Here's another example of a site that we've done where we put stats at the point of, form entry, and tons of other examples as well. The third principle is the number of form fields. So, I'll often come across sites that have tons and tons of form fields, and you just have to understand that every time you add an additional form field, obviously you're adding more friction to that journey, and you're basically adding an extra step for the user to actually complete and convert on your site. So, practical tip, the sweet point for conversions, generally what we recommend is 4 form fields or less. If you can get it less than 4, that's great, but 4 is typically enough to kind of balance, quality and quantity both. And so kind of a, really quick tip is often on sites we'll see first name and last name, right? You don't need to have two separate form fields for that. You can often just combine it into full name unless there's a specific reason you need to separate it. The other thing is phone number. Phone number is one of the biggest objections statistically that people have when filling out form fields. So you always want to think, is it absolutely necessary for me to collect a phone number, right? Is it critical to your business or is it a common practice within your industry? If it's not, then just get rid of it, right? So really do a thorough assessment of what's needed and what's not. The other big thing on this site in particular is you have, the form fields from left to right, so first name and last name. And I've often come across sites where all of the form fields are like that, right? Left to right. The issue with that precisely is that there's a lot of empirical evidence that suggests, single form column fields is much more easier to fill out when you actually look at the time to completion, right? So if you just think about it logically, right? When you have a form field like this, you're having to go down, right, vertically, and you have to go horizontally, right? So there's a lot more to process, and all of those seconds count when it comes to actually form completion rate, right? So, just simplify it, simple vertical form field that generally has the fastest completion rate. And users also know where to look next as well. This goes without saying, but the other big thing that we often see across sites is actually denoting what form fields are required and which ones aren't. Again, you'd be surprised by how many websites don't do this. And it's just adding additional seconds in the journey that, otherwise doesn't need to be spent. So the last big tip when it comes to forms is from your labels. So what that means is if I go on this site here, if I actually fill out my contact info, right? The issue with this is that the form field, the placeholder, right, where it says first name or full name, is actually being used as the label, right? Instead of separating the two. And so naturally what ends up happening is, let's say somebody's on mobile, and we've seen this in user recordings. Somebody might be filling out their name, something happens, people's attention spans are short, they get a notification, something, doorbell rings, whatever, right? Anything can happen. They forget what they were filling out in the first place, right? And then they're not going to erase everything. They're just going to exit the site straight away or bounce, right? So best practice is to always separate these two things, similar to the site that we've done here, where you have full name and then you have placeholder text, right? Company name and then placeholder text. Let us know how we can help. So you always want to separate those two things just to kind of, get people to encounter errors less often. The last bonus tip here is having easy form entry. So if you actually look at this example here of segment, when I type in my full name or my email, it actually opens up additional form fields, right? So this is referred to as the principle of progressive disclosure, which is basically the idea that you give somebody easy information first. So all it presents me with initially is just email, right? So it seems very simple. And then as soon as I input that, I have full name, phone number, company name. So since I've already completed the first step, I'm much more likely to, proceed and fill out all of the steps thereafter, right? So easy form capture, easy lead capture is, kind of that sweet point again, and the cherry on top when it comes to, increasing your leads from your website. So hopefully this is helpful. Guarantee that if you implement at least some of these changes, you'll see a big improvement in your contact form, especially because it's often low-hanging fruit. And, I come across these mistakes all the time. So hopefully this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Thank you.